Go to consider the wedding for another well. Again. I'm Bob, I'm an addict. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the effort put in by the staff of the activities committee to put on such a wonderful, beautiful event for Narcotics Anonymous. I thank this committee for being upright and having the courage to give me this privilege, which I cannot describe in words. I know that my consideration for this speaking engagement caused a lot of controversy. I'm sorry that it happened, but nonetheless, I could think of no one better than myself to speak. You know, I look around the room at the few people that I remember from 25 years ago, and it's just giving some more credence to when I tell people when they get clean, buy your clothes big because you're going to grow into them. And I got to tell you, you know, a lot of you don't know me, but I got clean right here in the state of Connecticut on October 15th, 1984. Yeah. And it wasn't like this back then, you know, wasn't like this at all. And I'm going to speak about a number of things as I remember it.
All right.
Now, I'm not perfect. I'm human. I probably forgot more than I remember. But one thing to be sure, don't let the gray hair and the lack of hair fool you. I am not an AA speaker. Come on, Bob. You can tell the difference. You can tell the difference of an NA member from the AA member at the coffee pot. Yeah, an AA member will go to the coffee pot, grab a couple bags of sugar and shake them and pour them in the coffee. Addicts go up and they tap every bag, and they use about 10 sugars and half the thing of creamers. All the addicts I know have coffee flavored cream and sugar. That's how we do it. If you haven't found out yet, I like to laugh a lot.
That's right. All right.
Laughter is the best medicine for the soul. If we don't laugh at ourselves, we're screwed. If you listen to addicts speak and you shake your head yes because you identify the insane and crazy things that we do in our addiction. You know, I left Connecticut in 1988 with 4 years clean. I went to Los Angeles for 15 years. And now I'm down there in the redneck Riviera, as my wife calls it, Florida. But I got to tell you, being here this weekend, Connecticut has the most beautiful women in the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. I mean, beautiful, beautiful women that have gained the respect that they deserve by working the 12 steps and working spiritual principles. And you should demand from the man in your life respect and don't take that bullshit no more. The reason I say that is my beautiful wife and I met in the fellowship almost 24 years ago. And in December that just passed, we celebrated 20 years married. As a man in recovery, a gentleman in recovery, in the 24 years we've been together, I have not been outside my relationship. When I was using, it really didn't matter if I was outside the relationship or not, because I was never in nothing. You know, I know people here that say, well, I've been around this program for 30 years, and they got 6 months clean. It's because they've never been in the program. They didn't get around it. You got to get into this thing. You got to get into recovery. And my path here was not paved. I had a lot of potholes, a lot of rough roads that I drove to get to Narcotics Anonymous. And when I got there, ain't nobody going to make me leave. Nothing can make me leave. I found a seat that my butt fit in, and I sat down, and I've been sitting here ever since. And I don't have to go anywhere else. I don't have to go to church. I don't have to go to a psychiatrist, because our literature tells us that doesn't work for us. We're only 12 steps away from solutions to all our problems. But you can't work the 12 steps without a sponsor. The most important thing you can do in recovery is get a sponsor you love and trust and get in their pocket and stay there. That's what works. You know, my beginnings, I'm originally from Bristol, Connecticut. She might have seen my picture at the post office. I made 2 pictures in my life, one like this, one like this. Although I've been told I look like Robert Duvall.
You got no hair. You got it.
I got it.
You got it.
You know, coming to Narcotics Anonymous was kind of rough for me because, you know, I learned a long time ago how to put a needle in my arm. And I thought that was going to be my life. And those of you that may be a little older in age, you may remember the county jail in Hartford called Sin Street. Well, the story that I was telling today, a true story, is I was in Sin Street. I think I finished doing a 6-month bid. They let me out at 10 o'clock in the morning. I went around the corner on Barber Street and Cop. And at 4 o'clock, when the cops came in, I was there. They said, "Didn't you get out this morning?" I said, "Yeah, but I'm back." The Morgan Street was full. So they had to put me back in Sin Street. And that was my life, see? And I bought that. I said, okay, this is my life. I'll learn how to do time, get a good pinochle partner, you know, find out who got it inside so I can get loaded. And that was my life. And I accepted that. I accepted that until I was 36 years old. You know, in 1971, being a veteran of our United States Army, I went to the VA hospital strung out. And doctor said, "We have this new drug we just got from Leavenworth. It's called methadone." And I thought that was going to be my escape for the rest of my life. So for the next 13 years, I was on 120 milligrams of that miracle drug. And I was asleep. And I walked around in a haze. And I thought that was going to be my life. I've been married 3 times. First one lasted a couple months. Second one lasted a couple years. And I just told you about the 3rd strike is the best strike. Because the judge told me the last divorce, you can't get married no more. You know, 3 strike rule. You know, when it came to the place where I wanted to try to get clean, it was 1983. Bill Evans, those of us who know Bill, he asked me how I was doing. I went to see him. I heard he was a counselor. "How you doing?" I said, "I'm doing great." He goes, "How you doing great?" I said, "Well, I'm on 120 milligrams of methadone. I've got a refillable prescription for Valium. And I drink a little wine now." He said, "I don't think I can help you." And he showed me a brochure of a place called Spofford Hall. And they had an indoor pool and a gazebo on the lake. And I said, "Let's go on vacation." So he had this guy, Jesse. I'm going to use some names tonight because some of you mostly don't know who these people are. He got Jesse to say, "Why don't you take him up there?" And Jesse stopped at a liquor store and let me buy something for the ride, you know. And I got up to Spofford Hall, and after about 2 weeks, my mother came up there, and the counselor said, "What do you think of your alcoholic son?" She goes, "He don't drink, he's a heroin addict." You would think mothers would say, "Oh, he don't do drugs." Not my mother. I'd catch him in the room all the time with a needle in his arm. Ma had me. Now, I went to Spofford Hall, and the most beautiful experience I had was Johnny Kinnerbell and Camille came in there from the Narcotics Anonymous H&I committee. And I was just talking to some people, and Jefferson was sitting in the front row, you know. He thought he was a counselor, and so did I. And I stayed there 35 days on a 28-day program because they had to send me to a hospital for 7 days to get detox. And I stayed through that program, and they sent us to AA meetings, and I thought it was a bunch of bull. So I can't identify with these old gray-haired guys. Guys who look like me. I couldn't identify with them because they're talking about falling off a bar stool and drinking alcohol. They used to hide in the toilet and stuff. I couldn't identify. But when I got out of the treatment center, I had an address that told me there was a meeting for men and a meeting for women. The men's meeting was called Pigs in Space, And the women's meeting was called Straight Lace. And I said, I think I'll go there after I get high one time. 9 months later, after being in and out of an insane asylum 5 times, I walked into the Bristol hospital, said I needed help. And they said, no, you don't. You've been here 5 times. And they had a doctor look at me, and the doctor said, don't let him close his eyes. He's not coming back. And I had dope left, and I had money left, but I had reached that point in my life, and if you haven't reached it, you will, where you inside you say, man, you're done. That's it. Party's over. And I have not used drugs since that day because I was done. If I could have used one more time, I would have used one more time, but I was done. And I remember being wheeled upstairs into a locked ward, laying on a mattress that was rubber, sticking to it, sweaty. Didn't know how many days went by when I finally came to. But I remember looking in the mirror one morning, and I started to cry. I hadn't cried in 30 years. And I started to cry, and I said, I don't want to die. I don't want to die using addict. God help me. And I believe that it may have been a spiritual awakening. May have been. I don't really know what it was. But I had an intention that I wanted to stay clean. And I remember on an afternoon, my mother, my ex-wife, they brought a priest with them, doctors, nurses. They filled up a conference room, and I was the target. And they said, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. They said, we're not helping you do anything. We're done with you. And they left. When I left that conference room, a nurse pulled my coat, and she said, there must be something you can think of. And I remembered Johnny and Camille. And I said, there's a fellowship called Narcotics Anonymous. She said, I'll get somebody. And that night, a gentleman named Bruce came to the hospital and asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, I don't want to use anymore. He said the most fantastic words I ever heard. He said, you don't have to. We don't. And I said to him, I don't know how to do that. I can't do it forever. I can't do it. He said, 51% of you wants to stay clean. You'll stay clean. And he gave me a piece of paper that somebody had wrote down about a half a dozen, maybe 7 addresses. Time the meeting started, and somebody put them through a mimeograph machine. That was the first schedule in Connecticut that I got. And I remember Monday night going to New London, Tuesday night going to West Hartford, Wednesday night going to Orange and Waller, New Haven. And those of you that don't know it, Danny Sullivan is responsible for Narcotics Anonymous in Connecticut today. He was the founder that got a little white book in the World Service Office and said, hey, I found an answer to our problems. And Danny, I didn't know him very well. He passed away shortly after I got clean, but he was a remarkable man. On Thursday night, Aaron started the Plainville meeting making headway. On Friday night, I remember going to the YMCA in Waterbury. Saturday night, Bobby Kosky, a guy named Alan, and Dennis, and Bruce on methadone helped start a meeting at Corbin's Corner. It was called Saturday Night Live, but a lot of people that showed up were Saturday Night Dead. At that meeting, I still remember the day that Alan walked in with a box of basic texts and said, here's our book. Because the book had gotten published for the first time in 1982, and only a few people got them. The reason you'll know that, you go on eBay, they're selling that first book for $3,000 or $4,000 now. First edition Red Book. And then, because addicts can never agree, they changed it the next year, and they called it the second edition. And then early in 1984, they changed it again and called it the third edition. And about 6 months later, they had the third edition revised. My beautiful wife, Karen, was on that literature committee, so she has more details on how that happened. But the first book that I got, Basic Tech, not big, but basic, Bobby Kosky put his phone number, and he told me, you call me anytime. I wish I could call him today, but he's not with us. There's so many people that when I come to Connecticut and I think of the people who are responsible for making this fellowship available to me, these were my heroes. My wife, 2 years more than I have clean. She's a hero of mine because I didn't know how to stay clean until I found Narcotics Anonymous. I couldn't do it in AA. I couldn't do it in the church. I couldn't do it by doctor's prescriptions. I did it one day at a time by not putting nothing in my system that altered my mind or my mood. And I believe wholeheartedly that addicts do not have to use mind or mood altering medications. There's other things we can do. That's me. I'm not going to discuss it. It's just me. I don't do those things, and I enjoy my life being clean. See, I consider myself a full member of Narcotics Anonymous. Not that if you're a part-time member because you go other places, you're not welcome here. But it's funny, if somebody over here says they're a member of Narcotics Anonymous, and somebody over here is clean and sober, I lean over there. It's just the way I am. It's not because I don't like you, but I love you. I still remember the first Narcotics Anonymous meeting I went to when I started to stay clean. Obviously, it was in October of 1984. On this piece of paper I had, it had an address in Plainville, Connecticut, 8 o'clock. I forget the church name. So I really didn't trust anybody. I guess I'm different than most addicts. I really didn't trust anybody. So I drove past the church about 5 minutes to 8, and it was dark. And I said, people are lying to me. Went down the street, got a Diet Coke or something, came back, and there was lights on. So because I trusted everybody, I parked around the corner in the dark, locked my truck up, and I walked in the back of the meeting, and I sat down, and people were smiling, and they smelled good, and their eyes were bright. And I said, oh, they got some shit here. I want more of this. The person I remember most is a person named Evol Johnson. Those of us who know him as EJ. He was in that meeting with this big old cowboy hat with a feather in it. And I said, look at this fruit. Because, see, I thought I had it going on. I mean, I really thought that, I was cool. And at the end of the meeting, they started talking about, let's circle up and say a prayer. I said, God damn it, a bunch of Christian people here. I better get the hell out of here. When I walked back to my car, to my truck, I started to cry. And I looked back at that later, and the reason I cried was because they had something I wanted, and I didn't think I could get it. I thought they had something that was a secret, and I didn't know what it was. And so the next night, I said, I'm not going to no damn meeting. It's a piece of paper about 5 o'clock, and head down YMCA, Waterbury, Connecticut. That's where I went. All right. I parked outside and I watched a few people walk in, and I said, man, they don't look like addicts. Man, they got clean clothes on. But I walked in and the same thing happened. After about 2 weeks of this, I was kicking methadone. Took about 13 weeks to do that. And, I watch people and I go to meetings, and then one time somebody confronted me and said, who are you? I said, my name is Chuck, and I'm visiting from my state. And that went on for a little while, and people would see me, hey, Chuck, how you doing? But you know how we are. I went to a meeting one night, and they were having a topic discussion, and I was getting all excited about it, and I raised my hand, and I said, I'm Bob, and I'm an addict. And I shared on the topic, and when I was done, they all said, keep coming back. So I said, shit, they like what I got to say. I probably could help these people. And I had that thought for a couple of months. Because, see, we don't know how it is when we go to a meeting, people remember our name. I thought they remembered my name because I was special. And I was special. That's why today I make a real point when people introduce themselves to me and they're new to remember their name, because I know how I felt when they remembered mine. I felt part of something I never felt part of in my life. I always wanted to be part of something positive. And I would start everything and finish nothing. Nature of my disease. And I kept going to meetings. And I started to feel better. And I would get on my knees every morning like I do today, and I would ask God to help me. Because I remembered only 51% of me had to want to stay clean. And I could do that. And I would think about getting loaded. And I would tell my disease to get in the back seat. Some of you know Bill Evans, the first person who put me in treatment. I had a job. I was working at the Hartford Insurance Group. One of my coworkers was Ronnie Ferguson. And every noontime when I was kicking, I needed to go somewhere besides the cop man. Where would I go? I drive over the bridge to East Hartford. I go to Bill's house. I'd walk in his house. I wouldn't say nothing to him. I'd sit there and watch the news with him for about 20 minutes. I watch Karen and Brenda come in with their bikinis on and get suntanned in the backyard. You know, because I was clean. I started to notice those kinds of things. And I'd sit with Bill for half an hour or so, and then I'd get up and leave. I'd never even say hello to him. But he knew that I was there to be safe. To me, that was safe, being around another addict that did not use. I did not go to the bars in downtown Hartford for my luncheon special, you know, which was as much as I could drink, as quick as I could drink it, because I wanted to kill the pain. Well, I wanted to kill the sick that I had from shooting dope. And I did that for a while. When I had about 6 months clean, Johnny Kinnebrew said, "Hey, you did time up at Summers Prison." I said, "Yeah." I said, "You going with me Wednesday night to the meeting?" I said, "No, I'm not." You know Johnny, he's about this big, carried a 45. He said, "You're going to the meeting with me." I didn't want to go. But Johnny had a way of convincing you it would be a good idea. Back then, I was a little smaller than I am now. I was built for speed, not for comfort. I figured his gun could outrun me. So I had my first experience with an H&I commitment going to Summers State Prison and getting the opportunity to eat in the cafeteria that serves all the prison personnel, the guards. And one of the guys that I remember from when I did time there was a guy named Horn. And some of you people from the inner city know Johnny Horn here. And he was doing time there. He was a hell of a boxer. He was a little thinner then, weighed about 155 pounds. I think he's about twice that size now. Don't tell him I said that. He probably can still punch. But, you know, I went in there and I saw a lot of people that I was there with 10 years before that was still there or had left and came back. Because that's what we do as addicts. See, we don't know how it is to be good to ourselves and find this beautiful program of recovery and stay here no matter what. Because if you get a sponsor and you go to meetings, you're not going to use.
That's right.
Not if you stay honest. Tell somebody, "I want to use." That's what we do. And they'll say, "No, you don't have to." And time again, newcomers call people with time and they spend time with them. Karen and I had a 3-bedroom apartment in New Britain. Those 2 other bedrooms were always full of people kicking. Because back when I got clean, you couldn't go kick heroin in the hospital. We'd have to get you drunk as shit and drop you off at the emergency room door, and they might take you. That's the way we did it back then. But we didn't have to do that anymore. After I had been clean for a year, at a meeting, they gave me Bubba. Remember Bubba from Springfield? Hey, Bubba gave me a key tag. He said, "This brother will glow in the dark." I thought he was a magician. So I got home that night and I put it on top of the dresser, turned the lights off, and it glowed in the dark. I said, "Wow, Bubba got some shit." I was so proud to have a 1-year key tag. I was elated. I couldn't believe it. I must have used, I must have used and forgot about it. But I didn't. And somebody said, "Now the work begins." And I thought they meant service work. But right around that time, this Hartford area, 25 years ago, said, "We're tired of being an area of the Mid-Atlantic region." Mid-Atlantic region went all the way from Baltimore all the way to Maine. all the way over to Cape Cod and out to the west side of New York. That was the mid-Atlantic region. Connecticut said, we're going to be our own region. And they split the state in 4 pieces. You know, I think Hartford got the biggest piece, didn't we? There was the Hartford area, the New Haven area. There was the shoreline area. Which one am I missing? Waterbury area. Those were the 4 areas. And of course, we knew everybody else in the other areas because we traveled to go to meetings. You know? And we started this area, and I remember Sonny was involved trying to get things going. He was still unsure if he wanted to go just to NA. Bill Evans was kind of there, but he was still going mostly to AA, you know. And there's a few people that started to spread the seed of service in Narcotics Anonymous. And a few different people chaired the group of people that were trying to start this area. And in July, I believe, or June of 1986, they elected Juan as the Hartford area chairperson, also known as the H&I chairperson, also known as the literature chairperson, because back then we didn't have many people, you know, and if you had 5 people, you just changed jobs every year. But the Hartford area and the other areas in the state of Connecticut started to grow. Meetings would start weekly. Jimmy got here. And when Jimmy got here, shit started to happen. He got fired up. Then when you have a bunch of people, you know, 25 years ago, we were pretty cool. We're getting older, but we still had that passion. The thing that I see missing the most in new people, my criticism, they don't have the passion we had. Then they don't have the desperation. I came here desperate to stay clean. I didn't come here to catch an old lady. I came here with a desperation I never knew before. And I wanted this thing, and I wanted it to work. In my personal life, I was so inadequate and felt so unworthy. I didn't think I could do it. But people started getting involved, and we started going to meetings. And if you went to a meeting and somebody wasn't there and you knew where they lived, you'd go to their house and find out why. That's why I never told anybody where I lived. I'd give fake phone numbers and addresses. You know, but the fellowship was small, and they'd find out real quick. Pissed off at you. But the fellowship started to grow. And it was beautiful back then. It's beautiful now. It's just that I realized the desperation and the passion for recovery in Narcotics Anonymous doesn't seem to be there. Maybe it's because I don't see it. When I come to Connecticut, it's a little bit different than Florida. Florida is a very transient state, and you get people that come in and out all the time. There's people come there saying they got 25 years, you never heard of them, and they claim they're from Connecticut. I don't know. We had some great personalities in the early days. You remember Ronnie Two Shoes? Well, Ronnie Two Shoes, you know how he got his name? When he got out of treatment, he used to wear his treatment slippers. And one time he came to a meeting and he had shoes on and said, look, Ronnie got 2 shoes. And that's how they called him Ronnie Two Shoes. See, back then, everybody had a nickname, you know? Everybody had a nickname. They probably called me a loser. I don't know what the hell I called. You know, to date, I've been in 21 treatment programs. 21. And everyone was the same thing. I'd stay for the length of time, know what to say, what to do so I could get out. And then I would go fix one time. And that one time would last until the next treatment. You know, just could not get it. But I got the passion. I really got it. And I still have it today. I have not lost it, you know. When I was coming up on 2 years, that little service commitment that we had going on, Karen was a big part of that early service structure in Connecticut. And I would notice her at meetings, and you know, I wanted to get to know her a little bit better. And she would look at me and say, get the fuck away from me. But I have good intentions. Trust me. Well, she had this sponsee named Judy. And Judy was like Judy was sergeant at arms. And she'd get all the other girls to kind of circle Karen and orbit her. So breaking in was kind of like real tough. So I had a plan. I called EJ up because they were roommates. And I said, EJ, you want to go concert? He said, I can't make it. Why don't you ask Karen? I said, good idea. So my first date with Karen was a blind date. We went to see Stevie Wonder. No, she was going with a biker dude then, but I thought she kind of liked me. You know, I didn't jump for bones. You know, all the gentlemen. We went to this show. It was good. But I was working in Massachusetts. And so I would drive 125 miles like a bat out of hell after work at 5 o'clock to get to a new meeting that she was starting in the North End. And I walk in, she, what the hell are you doing here? I said, well, I wanted to support the new meeting. Get the fuck away from me. I mean, trying to hit on Karen was a chore. With a chore. And I bugged her so long, she gave me a shot. I think it was the car. I had a Buick Grand National, that black, shiny car. And she loved to drive it. So I let her drive the car, and I got myself a date, and we've been together ever since. We have a beautiful life. And I talk about that because some people think relationships don't work in recovery. Yeah. I'll tell you how they work. You work the 12 steps. Relationship will take care of itself. You tell your sponsor everything. Don't tell your old lady everything. You call your sponsor and hide your writing if you write. They'll find your writing and you're going to be in a world of shit when they find it. I used to hide mine between the mattress and box spring. Hell, she found that easy and she don't even make the bed. I love you, honey. I said speaking Saturday night at a one-day convention is great because ain't nobody behind me. I can say what I want. We had a lot of fun in the early days. We were a group of us used to play golf on Sunday morning, you know, and we were fellowship, and we would go and have coffee after meetings. Now, I'm older. After meeting, I want to go home and go to bed. You know, I watch the Yankees. I don't watch the Red Sox. She watches the Red Sox. That's another proof relationships work. I'm a Yankee fan. She's a Red Sox fan. I'm a Celtic fan. She's a Laker fan. But the relationship is great. I call her team the Cooties. The bed bugs. After I met Karen, I found out that her sponsor lived in California. And I met Sydney for the first time when she came to Connecticut when the little white book was being changed. And man, people were pissed off. They used to have words in the little white book like sober and stuff like that. And, you know, first fix, pill, or drink. Remember that, Jimmy? The first fix, pill, or drink instead of the first drug. So the World Service Conference, of which Sydney was part of as a trustee, they were going to change the little white book, the World Service Conference. And they called Sydney and they had a meeting in New Britain at the Knights of Columbus Hall in New Britain. And people were there and they were beating on her and she would just smile and say, oh, it's okay, honey. It's okay. And the literature got changed the way it should be changed, you know. And back then, Cindy had given an assignment to the girls. Guys were, well, I want you to write questions on how to work the steps. Because we didn't know what the hell we were doing back then. We knew we wanted to stay clean. We knew you had to work the steps, but how? So Karen and Jane and Taffy and myself and this other guy who was a writer for the newspaper, who the five of us met, and we wrote questions on all the steps. And because of that effort, and Jane becoming the chairperson of the literature committee for World Services, we have a step working guide today that started here in Connecticut. I don't say that because of my participation. I say that because Connecticut stands very bright in World Services. We've always been a contributor to World Services here. We've always had people representing different committees. When World Services had world committees, I was on World H&I committee for 9 years. 9 years I would travel to California, first for when I lived here, and we would work on things that would help the fellowship. Today, when I do H&I and someone starts reading out of a different text, I said, we don't do that. He says, how do you know? I wrote the manual. I helped write the book on H&I. I, not personally, I, with the help of Jimmy and other addicts who were H&I, we would put together information. I would bring it to World Services, do's and don'ts. All right. Don't ever take a letter out of an institution for an inmate. Inmate's going to play you like a Stradivarius. They're going to play you as loud and as long as they can. We don't do that in H&I. We don't give them money for a phone call. Of course, now they want the whole phone, but back then it was put money on my books so I can call my lawyer. No money on the books so you can buy some pokey bait, some whams and zuzus. Good stuff, candy. We did a lot of work in world services back then, volunteer services. Karen used to go and work on literature stuff. I worked on H&I. 1988, we moved there, and I was close by, and I've been to every World Service Conference for about 15 years, and I would meet people from all over the world. And Karen, being out of a job at one point, went to work for NAS, Narcotics Anonymous World Services, and she was responsible for starting the PI Roundtable, where professionals would get together for drug court and places like that and discuss how they can be of service to Narcotics Anonymous. Karen, one of the founders of Narcotics Anonymous in Connecticut, participated as a special worker at the World Service Office. So it always kind of bugs me when people say, well, how do you know that? Because I was there. It's not like I heard about it. We were there. And it was such a privilege to do those kinds of things. I talked at the beginning what a privilege this is to me. To me, this is like speaking at a world convention. This is where I got clean. This is where my roots are. I know some people say, well, you haven't been here for 20 years. My heart is always here. My heart is here because I sponsor people here who sponsor people. Karen started the first North End of Hartford meeting, the very first one. And there were some brothers that hated white people. We started that meeting and they loved that little woman. Because she brought the message of Narcotics Anonymous, to the people on Albany Avenue and Barber Street and all the places where I used to go to buy my drugs. This fellowship is very fond of its founding people. People remember Sonny and Bill Evans and Ronnie Ferguson and Ronnie Two Shoes. And I had an opportunity tonight to see Scott and Tommy. And the people that were here, we had rested here. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. But we were clean and we were proud. And we were sitting in meetings and ramble on and on about all kinds of stuff, but didn't really mean anything. But we stayed here. I remember telling Ronnie when I saw him at the job, I'm not going to that meeting. Me neither. That night we were both at the meeting. The first recovery dance I went to, I saw Ronnie. I said, what you looking for? He said, purses. Yes. That's what we were back then. We were talking about it. After Karen and I got together, she brought me a tape that this guy spoke in Denver, Colorado. And I listened to that tape, and for the next time, tears came out of my eyes because he told my story. His name was Bob Raymar. He was chairman of the board of trustees. I didn't know that. I just know he had recovery the way I wanted to experience it. And I was able to go to Los Angeles, California, and I met Bob. I didn't know what side of him to sit on because I only had one eye. But I must have been on the right side because I said, you think you can help me? He said, I think so. I don't know how many people it's hard to ask somebody to sponsor you, right? Yeah. To get over that fear and say, would you sponsor me? So I asked him, do you think you can help me? And he said he thought he could. So he said to me, what do you know about the 12 steps? And I said, he said, shut up. I was digging a deeper hole for myself. So we talked about things, and I'm old school. I really am old school. I got clean and worked the steps before we had literature to tell us how to do that. I'm one of those people that's a little bit different in my observation of how we live the 12 steps. See, 12 steps to me is like breathing. You go through each step with a sponsor, but it's like breathing. It's like every day I experience the 12 steps in one way or another. And one of my pet peeves is, my sponsor put me back on one. Oh, no, the sponsor put you up to one. Up. The first step is first because that's where we need to go. Because most of our troubles start with the fact that we're not powerless. And we don't trust that a loving God was going to help us. But look back on your track record. When you started trusting in a power greater than yourself, you were able to stay clean. Because for me, I realized that when I get up one morning and I started going toward the bathroom, and I thought, I didn't think about getting high when I woke up. I didn't think about getting high when I woke up yesterday. God damn it, something's working here. Something is working. I get goosebumps thinking about that. I get goosebumps. And the things that have happened in my recovery as I've worked the steps. Who's telling me? Am I going over?
No.
Oh. Yeah? Oh. You know, the things that happen to us in recovery are unbelievable. They told me not to make any major changes for a year. At day 366, I quit my job. I took people's word for it right to the day. So shortly after I had a year clean, I changed jobs for the first time. Part of it out of resentment, because my boss, when I got clean, told me, if you miss a minute of work, you're out of here. She said to me one day, where you been? I said, what do you mean? She said, what day is today? And I said, Tuesday? She said, no, today's Thursday. I've been seeing you since last Friday. My wife at the time used to say the same thing. All funny kind of people went to the store and never came back. I'm going to get a pack of cigarettes. I'll be home in an hour. It might be 5 days in an hour. Where you been? I don't know. And I really didn't know where I've been. I know I had the same clothes on and they stunk. You know, that's what we do. When we come in here, we become responsible. So when you get to Narcotics Anonymous, you become responsible. You try to control every goddamn thing. And that's our first step. See, we feel powerless. Well, I'll control it, so I won't be powerless. And we start controlling things, it makes our life unmanageable. And we don't know how to get out of that quagmire. You know, I'm powerless. What do? Well, hell, invite a loving God. Practice a second step. The other day I had to go to work and I knew a confrontation was coming between my boss and another one of my peers. And when I left the house, Karen said to me, take God with you today. And I thought about that all the way to work, and the meeting went fine. I didn't get fired. I didn't punch her out. You know, it's a good day. Unlike many other days when I would go and they'd give me my final check and I'd hang my head and I'd have a job then. Second step is so powerful. So powerful. We think we can keep doing shit and it's going to be different this time. Well, it's going to be different. I know it will. I know what I did wrong last time. I mean, it doesn't change. See, because the insanity is the fear that we get into. Then three things happen. Marshall said it back. We get afraid, then we get angry, then we get stupid. And we say and do stupid things. We got to stop that. We got to stop being afraid, because when fear knocks and faith answers, nobody's home. Ain't nobody home. Faith is the most powerful thing that we have, you know? And when we get it, and we take a third step and we turn our life over to the care of that power that's greater than us. And I do that all day long. When I play golf and I got a putt, I ask God to help the ball go into the hole. And when it don't go in, I tell God, you better take some lessons. Or you ain't doing too good. I try to ask God to help me with everything I do. And it works. When I need a parking space, God help me find a parking space. If I don't file and sue, my wife is going to jump out. She can't stand going in circles. And I found a parking place. Now, I don't know if God found it for me, but I like to think he did. He can do things. He can move mountains. Bring a shovel, give him a hand. You know, help him out a little bit. You know, the inventory ain't no big thing. People that are stuck on inventories, forget about it. You write it down, your life, good, bad, and ugly. Inventories aren't about just the bad stuff. It's about searching and fearless moral inventory of yourself. And that's what you do. And when you share it with your sponsor, he's going to say, well, I did that too. Oh, that's all you did? Yeah. Because we have the same disease and we do the same thing. Anybody who's ever sponsored anybody, have you done inventory where someone said something, you went, oh my God? Yeah. I don't think so. our grandiosity, we said to ourselves, that's all you did? When you tell a newcomer that's 16 years old, I spill more than you use. She said if you didn't spill so much, you would have got here faster. Women love the sick stuff. Men don't care for it all that much. To take away our defense mechanism kind of sucks, But if you ever notice, when you get into a defect, you get into a whole bunch more. You get insecure, you start lying, you start mistrusting, you start being grandiose about things. All these defects, kind of like domino effect, triggered by one defect. So what we do, and the people that I sponsor, is we write how that defect affects your life. First, you got to look it up in the dictionary, because addicts think they know every goddamn thing. When I used to talk to my sponsor, he'd tell me stuff. I would always say, I know. One time he said, why don't you write how come you know every goddamn thing? I didn't have to write very much. I did honest and said, I don't know everything. But defects of character is where our disease manifests itself. And defects of character are like those comfortable shoes that you put on and they feel so good and you can walk anywhere in them, Not so comfortable when you got to say, I can't keep doing this. Bad for my feet. So we work on those defects of character, and the miracle of recovery comes when we learn in 7-step how to act in the opposite. We don't have to be that way anymore. We don't have to act out. All we have to do is become entirely ready to have God remove them. I remember when I was working on my 6th step and my landlady was a long-term member of the other fellowship. And I said, what do you do in AA about defects of character? She said, well, we ask God to take them away and they go away. Actually, I wanted to join. Can I be an ad hoc member? That sounds real easy. Addicts can't do that. We just make believe they go away. What they really do is go to the back of the line so when they're ready to come back, they come back. But I know when I worked the 7th step, I found out there was another way. There was a way to practice unconditional love. There was a way to practice acceptance of other people. Not the way you want them to be, but exactly how they are. Isn't that amazing? Accept somebody as they are. It's like, a real friend sees right through you and still likes the view. How about that? How about the spiritual principle of asking God to keep his arm around you and his hand over your mouth? That's a good one. Our mouth gets us in trouble more than anything else. I was looking for forgiveness, working up through step 7. When I got to step 8, my sponsor said, write a list of people you harmed and the exact nature of the wrong. I couldn't do it. I didn't think I owed anybody anything. How about me? What about me? What about all the money I got out there? And when we stay self-centered and self-serving, that's how we think. My sponsor said, if your recovery depended on you making that list, would you do it? I said, absolutely. I said, your recovery depends on it. And I made that list, and there were so many situations. I didn't know the person's name. I did a lot of things like robberies and burglaries and things like that. And I didn't know the person's name, but I remember the situation. I remember that young girl in a store when I put a pistol in her face and she peed her pants, how scared she might have been. And I felt terrible. I really could feel that pain, and I wrote about it and how I felt, the exact nature of that wrong, because I wanted some freedom from the way that I felt. And I found that by working that 8th step, I started to feel forgiveness. What an amazing word forgiveness is. And when I was able to discuss with my sponsor all these situations, I was able to go make some direct amends, especially to family members. And I always talk about my parents, my visit with them, and I said, I'd like to pay you the money I owe you. How much is it? And my father started to laugh and said, you'll never live long enough. My mother started to cry, and she said, we don't want no money. So I told my sponsors, what do you think? I said, I like my mother's answer better than my mom. He said, you're the one that's got to make the amends. You make the amends to you, not for them. So I bought my parents a VCR. They never had anything like that. The blue collar people, you know. I didn't really think about this, but I thought, well, if I use it again, it's a lot easier stealing that than TV. But when I visit my mother today, she still has that VCR under the TV. She's retired, so she can watch her soap operas live. She don't have to tape them anymore, but she still has it. And I'm sure the reason she has it because I gave it to her, and it reminds her of me making that amends. And when I see it, it reminds me as well. My brother is a year older than me, and I always talk about when I was doing my thing. We didn't have picture IDs; we had paper licenses. And so whenever I got arrested, my name was David. And I knew David's address and phone number and social security number, and he got arrested a lot. But when they brought him down to the police station, they say, "You're not the guy." And he goes, "No, you're looking for my goddamn brother." So, I mean, he was pissed off because I brought his car back with 3 bullet holes in it. You know, nowadays you buy the stickers. I had the real ones. My spouse said, "You love your brother?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Go tell him." That sounds real easy. I looked at my brother and man, I went in the bathroom, got on my knees, I was like shaking. Yeah. And I come out and I said to my brother, "I love you, Dave." He said, "I know." I said, "I'm forgiven." Next, I know 8 or 10 years, whatever it was, I went through my life, seeing him at Christmas. "Hey, what happened, brother?" You know. He finally came to Los Angeles on a business trip. We went out to dinner and he looked at me and said, "You're forgiven." Wow, God gave me like 8 or 10 years of freedom before he really forgave me. Hey, but I forgave myself because I did the right thing and I do love him and I told him. Yeah. And that was the first time I told him I love him, you know. And my expectation would be that he tells me he loves me, but he doesn't do that. We're not that kind of a relationship. But I tell my mother I love her. Mm-hmm. You know, I tell my father when he was alive I loved him. And he starts saying, "We love you too." We. like he's in the program, you know. You got parents like that that can't take ownership for we, you know. And if something goes wrong, they can blame the other person. God bless my father. He was quite a person. He's a police officer. He's the first policeman to put me in jail. I'm 10 years old. I had a bicycle, didn't belong to me. So where'd you get it? I said, "I found it." So I'll show you where we put people that find things. I should have gave it to Scotty. He could have sold it. Nice bike. My sister got a good sense of humor, and when she got married, she got a brand new Electrolux vacuum cleaner in the box. I figured that got to be worth some money, so they left with me. And I went to my sister and I said, "I stole your vacuum cleaner gift. I'd like to buy you one." Because I just bought a new one, but you can come to my house on Saturdays and vacuum my house. Count what I offered. So, the things that are funny also behind them are some painful experiences. I have 2 nephews. My sister has 2 boys. And I remember my brother-in-law looking at me and said, "If you ever come near my kids again, I'm going to have you arrested." Because I was loaded all the time. And I would pick those kids up and I would take them to hockey games, loaded, and taking a chance I might kill them or myself. And I never thought about it that way. And so I've made amends for those behaviors by the things that I've mentioned to my family members. And I've made amends. I used to be the kind of person that would go into a store and say, "Give me a pack of cigarettes." When the clerk turned around, I'd steal the cerebral palsy can, the polio can, because I had money in it. And today, I donate to these charities, to various charities, anonymously, because that's the direction my sponsor gave me. I try to make up for the wrongs that I've done, and I try to equate it, but I really don't put a dollar value. It's what I say to myself when I do it. I say, "God, this is an amend," and I make it right. Because making amends is just making right what was wrong, and I try to support those things. Because when I get to step 10, I got to watch what I do every day. Not just the bad thing, the good things. Giving newcomers my phone number. I used to feel like I don't want to be bothered. So I give them bogus phone numbers. That ain't right. If I don't want to give them my phone number, don't give it to them. But don't give them a bogus one. But then I say, well, hell, I give out 20 numbers, nobody calls me. Because when I got clean, we made it too easy for these people. When I got clean, you had to ask somebody, could I have your phone number? We made it so, I had an addict tell me, well, you guys didn't know anything. All you had was a little white book when you got clean. I said, yeah, we made it too easy for you. Now we got stuff working guides. We got your sponsorship books that you can't get a sponsor, know what the hell to tell you. And you made it real easy. And that's why you don't take this thing seriously. Down in Florida, when you do the readings, people add words here and there.
Yeah.
Sing song shit. I get so pissed off because when I was new, if you made fun of the literature, you get smacked by somebody. And if you had less than 90 days and you raise your hand, they say you got 1 minute and then they shut you up. You do that today, you get a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Defamation of character. Someone got 20 days, they're going to tell me how to stay clean? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think newcomers got to listen. We used to have a saying, take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth. They don't say that stuff anymore, right? We don't say that stuff. So what we do, we tell people, go back out and use it and die. Oh, OxyContin kills people. No, the disease of addiction kills people. That's what kills people. The way we stay here, we practice 11 step. Prayer and meditation. Talk to your higher power and listen. Prayer and meditation. To get a better conscious contact with that God of your understanding, but most importantly, ask that power to give you the courage to do the right thing. We know what the right thing to do is. Just listen to your gut. Your gut says, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And we do it anyways. We pay the price. Time to go, huh? I'm sorry for taking so much time. I get rocking and rolling. I love Connecticut. I love NA. I'll tell you a little story to finish this up because some of you heard, and I'll tell you the truth. 2 years ago, I got in a traffic accident. I tried to take a shortcut through the woods with my Mercedes, and a tree stopped me and busted my whole face. Broke a bunch of ribs. I died 3 times in the emergency room. But I'm still here.
Right.
Scared the shit out of people. Wife went berserk. Really took control of my life then. Because of that accident, I found out I had liver cancer from hepatitis C. January 21st, they took my old liver out, gave me a new one. They told me, you won't work or play golf for 6 months. I went back to work after 5 weeks, and I played golf after 9 weeks. You don't know who you're messing with. I'm old school. Old school. I'm a tough guy. And I don't cry no more. I only cry when addicts go out and die. That makes me cry. I love you all. I'm sorry for taking so long, Marie. I wish I could have took a little bit less and been less of a fool of myself, man. It's so great to see the people that were here when I got here. Jimmy and Scotty and Tommy and my beautiful wife, Karen, and Bruce. And I've known Sean over 50 years. Imagine that. I know an addict over 50 years and we're both still alive. That's a fucking miracle. But I want to thank everybody. Oh, and by the way, if you like what I said tonight, I'm putting my tape in for the 50th celebration. I'll be 87 years old, but I'll be standing.